He kōna e purangi tēnei nā te reo irirangi o Aotearoa.
Você já sabia que a vida não é nossa. O mundo tem um pouco, mas a gente finge. A gente sabia que o tempo não é nosso. O céu ele fala, mas a gente é surdo. A gente é surdo.
Oh man, it's been such a journey. I feel really lucky. A huge journey. Now I can also see it through music and tell the difference from the things I was doing back in Spain.
Tarik Rahim's 26 and he's been in Mount Maunganui for about a year now, mainly going between the surf, studios, making the odd surfboards thanks to growing up shaping with his father back in Spain, and working the odd job around the place.
It was the first time that I spent like a lot of time like really far away from my family, but like from my parents and like working with my dad every day at the factory, then just getting to meet all like different people and like be able to play a bunch of gigs around and just receiving this like really different feedback from people.
As a musician, he goes across a whole bunch of genres, from psych, surf, tropical, punk, but experimental is how he'd like to call his music.
I guess my music is a little bit like off, so like it makes people intrigued. Here I really felt it like people really likes it and really loves it, or people don't get into it, which is funny and I really like.
This is Here Now with me, Kadambari Raghukumar. For a small town, the Mount is saturated with people from around the world, and people like Tarik are here for it. And there's a good reason too. Moving across continents is actually in his DNA.
I was born in Spain, but my parents are Brazilian and my grandfather is Lebanese. Back then, like on the 40s when he went there, it was a bit of a mission, and like we actually don't know his exact date of birth and everything. Like all the previous documents he had, they got lost. So yeah, the only thing I know is that he got to Brazil by boat, pretty much. Yeah.
So that's Tarik trying to give us context about the origins of his name. From around the 1800s to the early 1900s, thousands of Lebanese arrived in Brazil driven by economic reasons and the Ottoman Empire. In fact, they spread all across South America, trading as merchants mainly and becoming an integral part of the fabric of society there. So setting off to distant shores isn't exactly uncommon in Tarik's family.
My dad makes surfboards for a living. And he had a really good friend who moved to Spain to make surfboards, and he invited my dad to come over. So yeah, he moved basically for work as well, kind of what my granddad did for Brazil, he did it for Spain, just moved to Spain to upgrade his way of living a little bit. Yeah.
So you were born there?
Exactly, yeah, in Spain. It's a little town called Gijón in the north of Spain, in a region called Asturias. Yeah, it's pretty unknown, but yeah, that's
pretty unknown, did you say?
Pretty unknown, yeah. Like it's pretty like a little bit touristic inside of Spain, but then in Europe people don't know much about it.
Good surf.
Yeah, really good waves, really uncrowded, kind of similar to New Zealand as well. People is pretty like quiet. It's not busy at all. So yeah, I have some similarities between my hometown and New Zealand. Yeah, for sure. I actually didn't really enjoy working with my dad when I was a teenager, but then I grew up.
That's not surprising, is it?
Yeah. We're getting like dirt, like all the dust, and like being there in a little space, like away from the sun all day. It's like a bit hectic, but yeah, as I grew up a little bit, I started like enjoying like working with my hands, which is kind of related to music, just using your hands for a working purpose. So yeah, just seeing the similarities between both, it was really good, and it made me enjoy more the work with my dad. And then he came here to the Mount, and we made a board for my friend Kaito and myself, and yeah, it was a really quality time to work together again.
How's the board?
Yeah, really good. My friend didn't try it yet, but yeah, I think it should be good. Should be really good. My dad has been shaping for ages, so he knows a little bit what he's doing.
He's a humble sort, Tarik. His father, Tarik Rahim, is a master shaper who made his name in Brazil starting out sometime in 1975, a very different time for shaping. While Tarik was born after Yusuf moved to Spain, the family's Brazilian and Lebanese roots also continued to hold strong and deep. Music was naturally part of that whole mix.
My uncle, when I was around 11, he taught me like Spanish guitar a little bit. Started doing like shitty like teenager bands and stuff like that. And then after that, I just kept like researching on music and like learning all the instruments by myself, and also with like people who actually knew what they were doing.
I suppose it would be only natural to be exposed to the whole world of, you know, traditional Spanish music, but your music doesn't necessarily reflect that. And I would imagine a lot of people must wonder, so why don't you play that kind of music? I mean, you must be dealing with these kind of stereotypical perceptions around the music you play quite often, right?
Totally. And it's quite interesting because Spain is a really small country, but it has a really big difference from the south and the north. I'm from the north.
And the north of Spain, including the region his family live in, Asturias, doesn't have much of the Moorish influence like the south. So the music takes on a different flavour here.
We don't have that flamenco influence from it. We have a Celtic influence, and like we have a lot of like folk and like choirs and chants, and it's like real different from the south. My music really reflects more a bit of my Brazilian and Lebanese roots. Even though I met people that showed me and introduced me to like really like authentic folk music into my hometown in the north of Spain, it was never I was exposed to, like because of my family being Brazilian and like listening to different stuff. So I guess that had an impact on me on like making my own music. And yeah, it's funny how the Brazilian influence in the Lebanese is like way stronger than the Spanish, even though I was born in Spain. But
pretty strong contenders in terms of influencing your style, right? From Lebanese, Middle Eastern music to Brazilian music to Spanish. What did you grow up listening to? What would play at home? What did your dad used to listen to?
Oh, there's this like 90s rock band called Legenda Urbana from Brazil that he used to love, but also a lot of like American 60s folk, like Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, and just like like Neil Young as well, and like all that. He had that influence because he was like in Brazil like on the 70s shaping, so they would have this like really big influence from the US and like American like singwriters. So yeah, a bit of a mix between Brazilian but also like music from the US from the 60s and 70s, and also like real like famous like songwriters from Brazil like Caetano Veloso or Jorge Benjor. Like that was all day playing at my house.
One of the challenges though, you know, you're living all the way compared to Spain, and now you're here in Mount Maunganui. What's been one of the biggest challenges that you've had to kind of overcome?
For me, one of the biggest challenges was being far away from family, and just being able to like be flexible around situations, and like on the visa that I had, I could only work for 3 months for each company, so I would constantly need to look up for jobs, and like I needed to be like flexible, be open to do all kinds of like things, like from painting to dishwashing to like cleaning, like heaps of jobs.
Would that not have been the case if you were in Spain? Would you have been more stable?
Definitely not. But then I wouldn't have the experience of like meeting so many different people and like being able to make these connections that I definitely wouldn't be able to make in Spain. My neighbor, he plays traditional folk instruments from Brazil because he's Brazilian and he's been living here for 20 years, and I recorded a bunch of his percussions to like include it in the song. I felt really like proud to like make that happen here in New Zealand.
A knife
What kind of music from New Zealand have you been listening to?
There's like bands like Ringlets who are like coming up. Soaked Oats, I think they're from South Island. I absolutely love them. And Swallow the Rat, they're like a post-punk kind of like band. I think they're from Auckland, not too sure. And like Aldous Harding and like I really love that scene. Also a little bit of Maori traditional music, which it's been like amazing. Every day that goes on by, I appreciate more and more like the traditional folk music from a country. So yeah, a little bit of a mix.
Writing his songs in both Portuguese and Spanish is a bit of a double-edged sword. Works sometimes and other times doesn't really.
I don't know, I got told when I had this like bands growing up of like garage and like punk and stuff, like, oh, you should guys be singing like in English all the time, because then you'll be able to like play more places. And it's like, yeah, but like, nah, like I want to like keep on singing Spanish, you know, and like even like Portuguese. And like actually, it was funny because with one of the first bands I ever had, I did this song in Portuguese, and it was funny how everyone like embraced it. And I was like, okay, yeah, like this is good. Like I'm just like, if this is what I want to do, I'll just keep on doing it. But it's kind of funny how it's like the musicians are forced to like speak English to do music, which I think is changing a little bit now. And like I think people is appreciating like listening music in another like languages.
And of course, I can't resist asking what I got asked quite a lot when I first came to New Zealand. How did you pick up English?
Through surfing and through my dad. He had people from Australia and the UK and like United States coming to test his boards. So I would always listen to it when I was a kid. 70% of the music I discovered when I was a teenager was through surf films, because of like being captivated by the music on those videos, and like a lot of the music was in English, so I would like listen to heaps of English music, and yeah, that's how I learned English. Yeah.
And how much does your own personal relationship with surfing and the ocean impact the way you make music?
For me, they're like connected on two very like weird, strange levels. A lot of my music, and especially one of my official first albums, Espejos, was like based on me on like being able to connect with nature, and like a lot of the sounds and songs were inspired by listening to the wind and the beach, or like listening to the sound of the ocean. And a couple years later, I released another album that had a lot of field recordings, which were like beach recordings, or like field like in the mountain, recording waterfalls and like people talking. I don't do music for surf videos or anything like that, but they do have like this unconscious connection to it. It's just like part of how I express myself.
If you want to hear more of these stories and perspectives from people around the world, follow the podcast on Spotify, Apple, iHeartRadio, and everywhere else you listen to podcasts on. And oh yeah, we'd love to hear from you with your thoughts and ideas, so get in touch on herenow@rnz.co.nz. The audio engineer for today's episode was Blair Stagpole, and my name is Kadambari Raghukumar. Thanks for listening.